I'm intrigued to know, because as you said, you started in this role at the start of this year. What would you say are some of the real sort of special elements of the Isle of Man when it comes to wildlife that maybe makes us stand out or stand from others?
Wow, okay, that's quite a long answer. I'll give you the short one. I think you could go north to south. So I think that the Point of Ayre is a very special place. And I think, right up on the Point of Ayre, the beach is down, our visitor centre there, the potential for a new nature reserve is being developed there for the island as the National Nature Reserve. So the Point of Ayre is wonderful. And as you come through the island, then you go to the Currachs and our Ramsar site, which is internationally renowned. And then you can keep going right through the mountains, right through the various nature reserves. A huge element and passion for wildlife and nature and the countryside is within the community. And then you get to the south. Of course, I have an interest in scuba diving, so I spend a lot of time in the south, going out of Port Erin and Port St Mary diving, in and around the Calf, and it's gobsmacking. So I think internationally, people know about the Isle of Man for our Ramsar site, our mountains, our Calf of Man, our bird observatory, the basking sharks, although there's not so many now, they still come. So there's some real gems that internationally we're renowned for, and I've not been disappointed.
And so what about the actual operation when it comes down to it? Because we're going to be talking shortly about the trustees and what the trustees do, and the fact that you're looking for some more trustees going forward into 2021 and the years ahead. Operationally, how does it actually work? Because there are lots of different little groups around the Isle of Man, whether we're thinking about Wildflowers of Man, whether we're thinking about the Basking Shark Project, the cetacean projects, of course, Whale and Dolphin Watch, Native Oak, etc., etc., etc. And then, of course, there's DEFRA, there's a government. Where does the Wildlife Trust come into all this?
You might say I'm bound to say this, but I'll try and speak out of body. I think Manx Wildlife Trust have got a really pivotal role. So, objectively, we are by far the biggest conservation NGO on the island. We have a remit that spans everything from bryophytes and mosses and algae to birds, marine. So I think certainly under, if you like, my tenure, under my watch, as I might say, I want us to be absolutely collaborative and partnership working. I think, we think the Biosphere banner is a massive enabler for people to work together without people dominating. And I think already we've signed key memorandums of understanding with different organisations. For example, you mentioned Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch. They're wonderful. Brian and Jen, they're in Peel with us. I'm a member individually. I've got my hat. And we go on watches with them. We've got a joint adopt a dolphin scheme. There's not a competitive element there. There's a partnership element, and so our marine officer, Dr. Lara Howe, she'll work with DEFRA closely, and she'll be developing plans around how we manage our marine nature reserves. So does Lara care about cetaceans? Of course she does. But if there's real core detail of what we need on cetaceans, we go and work with Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch. And I think that's the same, with the bat group, with the butterflies. There's a huge range of small organisations, and I think the way that DEFRA come into this is through the Manx Nature Conservation Forum. And that's where everyone sits around that table. And I think when you get to that point where everyone's at the table, could we do more? Maybe. But the fact that we're all at that table wanting to work together under the potential of Biosphere is a massive opportunity, certainly an attraction for me.
And we'll bring Viv, you've been sitting very quietly listening to all this as well. We're just going to come more to you in a couple of minutes and talk more deeply about going forward with the trustees. But just tell us a little bit about your role then, because you are chair currently of the trustees. What does that actually involve?
Well, I find it a privilege because you're working with people who share that enthusiasm and passion that Leigh's just been talking about. And although the trustees themselves are in a way the governance body, and often that's looked at as pre-dry, it's not, because they have that shared interest and they're going to affect and influence and direct. And this strategic project process that we're going through at the moment, of course, is so important at this particular point in time, because everybody's waking up to the fact that we've got to do something and we've got to do it soon, and let's get on with it. And so the trustees are there to help make sure that Manx Wildlife Trust are doing it in accordance with what their objectives are, and making sure that they stay on track and they don't divert. But at the same time, they deliver and they have that impact.